everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of July 21st through the 28th, 2024. In this video, we're going to be touching on the topics of the big transit of the week and everything else, but really shining a light on this up-and-coming Sun-Pluto opposition. Make sure you click the bell button below and subscribe to my channel. That way you are alerted as to when we have new content. I am here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. All right, so we got a lot going on. First of all, happy full moon. So you guys are probably kind of in the midst of it, or maybe you're recovering, but we've got quite a really karmic full moon that's happening today. So we'll touch on that a little bit, but I really want to kind of get into the themes of the Sun-Pluto opposition. I think it's important, and it's nothing new. We see this aspect happen once a year, but also we've seen a lot of other planets like Mercury and Venus come into oppositions with Pluto recently. So we've been kind of under Pluto's thumb a little bit this month. So you're going to see kind of like a repetitive pattern that's kind of taking place with stuff that's been playing out for a little while now. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I think it's an interesting aspect. Obviously, it is kind of factored into the vibes of the full moon in Capricorn. Yeah, that's an interesting moon, man. It feels like a very Hades moon. So you guys will have to let me know how you guys are feeling. But basically, when we see the Sun-Pluto opposition that's going to be taking place earlier in the week, it is a very, very powerful aspect. And it's going to be happening at 0 degrees. So it kind of marks the beginning of something that almost kind of feels like an ending, or maybe there is something that's kind of going on that's shining a light on power struggles, or something that needs to kind of come to a completion. Something can come to our awareness that we were not aware of with this aspect as well. And well, I think a lot of us are aware of it, with the Mercury-Pluto opposition, with some intense thoughts and words, and there was some mental pressure. Then we saw the Venus-Pluto opposition, and it brought up lots of issues revolving around relationships and partnerships and finances, where that kind of felt like it was under fire. And now the Sun kind of comes in, and now it almost feels like the final boss battle, it's kind of like Bowser. Anyway, we're going to explore this. We're going to talk about it a little bit. But the one thing that I wanted to kind of start with first is that this is an opposition, okay? So oppositions in astrology, that 180 degree kind of opposition that you're seeing between the planets, this is relational. So a lot of the aspects that we're going to be kind of taking a look at with this particular aspect is going to be bringing up something outside of ourselves. Okay, so when we think of Leo is the ego. It's connected to the sun. It can be about our creativity, our heart space, our joy, our happiness. And the light wants to shine when the sun is in Leo. So you guys just want to remember this all week long, that even if someone tries to kind of put our fire out, or if someone tries to kind of steal our thunder, you want to keep shining anyway. That's something that I want to tell everybody. This is about bringing the light in, not feeling like, we are ants underneath the magnifying glass that are kind of getting cooked. Anyway, so with this particular transit, it represents, because it's an opposition, a very dynamic tension between the two signs. There's two opposing forces that are getting highlighted, Leo and also Aquarius. Now, when we see these oppositions, it does highlight areas of tension and conflict and challenge. But this is a challenge that I think we are all up to kind of handle. Like I said, we've seen some of these other planets oppose Pluto, so this is nothing new. And I really feel like this is where something finally comes to the surface, and issues need to be addressed or resolved. And it's going to be forcing us to confront opposing viewpoints or aspects of ourselves. It can be about where we are as an individual, Leo, and, how we are standing out from the crowd. Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius represents groups of people, masses, kind of collective themes. So yeah, I do think that this is where people are going to really feel more so comfortable kind of standing up for themselves and not feeling like a victim. I think a lot of this is about letting the fear go and not feeling victimized by stuff. I love oppositions. I feel like, personally, I think that they're a little bit easier than squares. That's just me. Because I feel like it brings us the opportunity for growth and balance and also integration. You guys have heard me say that when I look at the zodiac, I really see 6 signs and I see polarities to each individual sign. So when we think of, Leo ruled by the sun, which is all about drama and passion and leadership, and then we see Aquarius, who has a co-rulership of Saturn as well as Uranus. There is this sense of, do we want to kind of go into our passions and our creativity, and do we want to stand out, and do we kind of want to put on a show, or do we just want to kind of blend in with everybody else and, not say anything or not do anything different? That's the Saturn side of Aquarius. Or do we actually cause a bit of a ruckus because of the rulership connected to Uranus? So you guys are going to see a lot of polarizing things, I think, with this opposition. But with polarity, we see the opportunity to integrate and be able to kind of bring in both energies and meet in the middle. So this promotes growth, it promotes balance. And I think that working through this tension is definitely doable. It's about finding a middle ground where we can kind of develop a much more holistic understanding of the energies involved to learn how to harness the positive aspects of each individual sign. Now, before I kind of get into this, I wanted to see what Robert Hand had to say on this particular aspect, just to give you guys some more food for thought. If you guys don't already have this, this is one of my top 5 books. I always keep this on my desk. So if you're somebody who's kind of moving from learning about your natal chart to learning about transits, I really recommend checking it out. If you click the links in the description below, you'll actually see that I have a link for all of my book recommendations, and it's definitely on that list. All right, so let's take a look. So on the Sun-Pluto opposition, Hand says, this transit indicates rather intense encounters with other persons and circumstances, which will reveal many aspects of your life that you may not have understood or may have chosen to ignore. In particular, the transit signifies that you may have power struggles with others, especially persons in authority, which you will be forced to stand up for your position. On the other hand, you must avoid being overweening and domineering, because such an attitude will only create conflicts that you will probably lose one way or another. You may encounter breakdowns in your relationships, such as you may have to face other persons directly in order to get the difficulty out into the open. Only to be thoroughly airing out all grievances and making everything clear will it be possible for the two of you to get past your grievances and establish a new beginning in your relationship. As with other Sun-Pluto contacts, objects and machinery may break down under this transit. You will have to stop and repair them. Many aspects of your life that have been limping along now have to be fixed completely. Patching it up will not suffice. On the other hand, the transit is by no means at all difficult or bad. It can be time when your ambitions and forces for creative change in your life reach a culmination. You'll be able to make many sweeping and fundamental changes that you did not have the power to make before. Just make sure that the changes you're trying to bring about for the larger good beyond your own, and that you seek aid in others in bringing them about. This is not a good time to go it alone, because you'll likely encounter some oppositions and challenges that you cannot handle. Be careful not to place yourself in situations where you could be subjected to force or violence. Avoid places with high crime rates. Take precautions if you must go into such areas. Sometimes you can inadvertently draw violence into your life without knowing why. Okay? Obviously, when you're dealing with Pluto stuff, there can be some heavier kind of vibes out there. But when I think about this specifically, what kept coming up for me when I was meditating on this was literally shining a light in the dark. Okay, just keep shining. This is about highlighting. This is about exposing. This is about talking about bringing awareness. Right, the sun can be about awareness of darker things. Pluto things. Pluto in Aquarius is about some of the darker undercurrents of what's going on with, collective groups. It can also be because it's a Saturn energy about politics. It can also be about the darker side of technology, the darker side of some of our networks, the internet, some of our friends and friendships and kind of connections to groups that are outside of ourselves. Aquarius is the audience, right? Leo is the stage, and this is about the performer. So we are going to be seeing lots of challenges revolving around leaders, Sun and Leo, being put in the spotlight. And I think being in some pretty dramatic and dare I say even dangerous or kind of crisis-oriented situations. But for you guys, keep shining, shine a light on some of these dark things. I think that this is really about an end of potential leadership as well. I think we're going to hear about that because Leo is about leaders. We may hear that there is like a really significant performer or kind of like a, superstar. Like Sun in Leo could be somebody who is a Hollywood movie star, or it could be somebody who's a child actor that we hear, is involved in some kind of scandal or some kind of significant or serious threatening incident, or, transitions or dies. That's pretty common what we see. But it can also be, like I said, leaders or other people who can be involved even in like military, because I do see like generals and stuff that can kind of come through Leo. We could see this manifest as not a literal ending or a loss of life. It could manifest as somebody stepping down and stepping away from a position of power. And like I said, the sun is being threatened, even if it's in its domicile with that opposition to Pluto. I think about in the background, the ruler of, Pluto is Uranus, which has just recently had that conjunction with Mars. So we all know how that's played out with some of the violence in the last week or two. And maybe this is bringing up themes where, there is issues revolving around leadership feeling comfortable or feeling safe being in public places and being seen. So it can represent that feeling of threat and going like, okay, do I step away? Maybe. I definitely feel like the internet's going to be on fire just with the post full moon that's happening today with like the moon, Pluto, trine Mars. A lot of people are going to be talking about it. Obviously, Saturn is the modern day, the traditional ruler of Aquarius. And it's in Pisces and it's retrograde. So this is why we're seeing so much conspiracy stuff on the internet revolving around, well, what happened, with recent assassinations and kind of connecting the dots to multiple assassination attempts that have actually been happening for a number of global leaders, or why there is a stepping down that's going on for some leadership or stepping away. So that kind of makes sense as well. So I think that'll play into it. But Leo brings the drama. I always laugh and I say, with some of these Leo squares to Pluto, it's going to feel like lights, camera, action, and then you're going to see some drama and some stuff that's going to happen. Now, I want to read to you guys the Sabian symbol because this is interesting because it's going to be happening at 0 degrees, and 0 degrees is about planting a new seed. If you follow degree astrology, zeros are always the purest form of that energy. So 0 degrees of Leo is the most dramatic, the most creative, the most romantic, the biggest star. And 0 degrees of Pluto could represent, the biggest shock, surprise, crisis, a lot of people having a lot of outpouring of love or support, or feeling very passionate or feeling a certain way about some of these events that are going to be taking place. Now, we're going to read 1 degree of Leo. And all right. Leo 1, a case of apoplexy. The keyword is irresistibility. The theme is determination. The symbol speaks to potentiality full to bursting and to a pressing need to find a suitable outlet for self-expression. The image of a case of apoplexy describes an individual who has been suddenly struck with paralysis and a loss of consciousness as a result of pressure on the brain. This is another of the reverse symbols, and it dramatizes what can happen to an individual's desire to do as he pleases, is frustrated, and is unable to find positive ways to release the buildup of tension. On a practical level, the symbol can represent burnout. An emphasis here is on the man's basic needs to express himself freely and avoid limitation and restraint. Leo 1 describes the 1931 mimeograph version of these symbols, the first and the key symbol of the 360. first of the 24 that more promptly, if less conveniently, identify the spans or activity hours of King Man himself. At its highest, it represents the creative genius effectively expressing himself applied in daily living. Watch for demandingness and self-centered intensity to the burdens placed on others and the result of unwillingness to assume a fair share of responsibility. The accent is on frustration and tension. There is a strong likelihood that there is a need to release pent-up thoughts and emotions will in some individuals lose their composure and self-control. Your greatest advantage lies in finding a productive and healthy way to relieve stress. Guard against burnout, letting things go too long before doing something about it, avoiding making a fool of yourself by losing your temper or exploding at the result of your inability to make things go your way. Stepping stones are pressure, force, tension, stress, frustration, burnout, the need for release, determination, compulsion, lack of self-control, loss of rationality, mobilization, and explosiveness. Now, truth be told, I could barely even pronounce that word. I did not know what it meant. So I had to kind of look up apoplexy. Apparently, it means to like have a stroke, or the effects or the results that you have as a result of having a stroke. And I didn't know that. So interesting that the sun is leadership, and it's going to oppose the moon Pluto, which can be about the responses maybe that people are having to the fact that people are unable to kind of, connect the dots. It could quite literally mean that we could see a leader that is emerging, having some kind of crisis situation that is affecting their ability to lead. Could it be a stroke? Sometimes the Sabian symbols are literal. Obviously, touch wood. I mean, made a lot of comments about stuff that has happened recently, and it's been quite literal. So I'm going to keep referring to the Sabian symbols because clearly there's some kind of connection right now. I feel like it's already kind of happening. So to kind of give you guys some food for thought, I can't confirm that it's true because I don't know. But there is information that's coming up online right now where there are reports that are claiming that China's Xi Jinping suffered a stroke. Right, perfect example of, sun in leadership, especially sun in Leo being like such a bold kind of, he's got a reputation, obviously leader. And the opposition to the moon and Pluto can represent the public response to hearing that, okay, because of such shocking, situation, he may be unable to lead. We don't know, so I'm not going to speculate. But it's stuff like that you guys are going to hear about, or hearing that a celebrity had, some kind of situation involving something that can be along those lines. So we'll see what happens. But on a personal level, like when we think about the sun in Leo, this is about our core identity, right? It's the ego, it's our creative expression. And Pluto in Aquarius is about deep transformation. It's about power dynamics and the collective consciousness. So when these two planets oppose each other, we're going to see conflict. It's going to happen. And really the conflict is between our inner individual needs, sun in Leo, and the greater good for society. So this opposition is really going to be asking us on a personal level to confront our shadows, to deal with our fears, our insecurities. It is creating that pressure for us to transform and evolve on a very profound level this week. And it's really a time to let go of outdated patterns and beliefs, and also like structures that no longer serve us, because it's about making room for the new and empowering ways of being. We want to focus on empowerment, what we're kind of breaking through and clearing out that's actually keeping us from feeling empowered. So it can be a positive transit as long as we're working with that sense of awareness of what has had power over us, and like no longer willing to kind of give our power away. So an example, with like a sun-Pluto opposition, whether you're going through this transit in your natal chart, so if you have an early degree Leo and you're dealing with this, or maybe you have this transit coming up, maybe you have it natally, I think about experiencing power struggles in relationships, career or personal life. It can also manifest as conflicts with authority figures and intense emotional confrontations, or a sense of maybe feeling like you're in a bit of like feeling like you're stuck in a rut, right? Like that can also happen, especially in the fixed signs, because Leo wants to play. It wants to date and take chances and have a good time and express itself. And I think Pluto is kind of standing in opposition to the sun, and it's basically saying, no, you cannot do that. You should not do that. You know, don't stand out from the crowd. Don't be different. Don't be a leader. Like, just kind of get in line. And it does it in a way that feels threatening. There is something threatening about Pluto. And for me, it represents cancel culture in a very big way. And we've seen some of this happening recently. You know, Aquarius is the internet. Since the assassination attempt in this last week, there's been a whole slew of people that are making really strongly opinionated statements about, you know, the events that transpired with the assassination attempt against, you know, previous President Trump. And we're seeing, one thing that really stuck out to me is we saw Jack Black and his partner, who was a part of Tenacious D. They, I think, were in, I want to say they were in New Zealand or Australia, I'm not sure. But apparently Jack Black did not know that his partner was going to make a strong, you know, opinion in regards to that, and asked him and said, you know, what do you know, make a wish, what do you wish for? And he made a comment saying, you know, I wish that they don't miss next time. Okay, so performers being on stage, daring things that are being said, and then apparently the government came out and were calling to have them actually like leave the country over it. And Jack Black came out and made a statement and ended up like canceling the whole tour and said that, you know, things are kind of on hold indefinitely because he was taken back by the comment. So this is a perfect example of people saying things, doing things, acting in a certain way, being on stage, and then, you know, some kind of bigger power. And also the internet, right? There's going to be millions of different comments about this. Pluto in Aquarius can very much be kind of like the dark underbelly of the internet and the things that people are talking about and saying. That can be nasty. It can also be encouraging of such behavior. And also, you know, Pluto is about violence. So it's perpetuating this because we're seeing people that are promoting this on stage. But I also think about like teachers and like other people who have made really bold statements about this situation, who, you know, are in positions where they're teaching children or they're working with youth. And then, you know, people are tagging them and putting it on the internet, trying to get the attention of their employers. And then, you know, their jobs are being terminated. This is not me saying that I agree or disagree with it. I'm Switzerland in this situation. I don't really want to get involved in the politics of it, but this is the astrology in action, guys. That's what's happening. So really what I think about is with all of these transits through Leo is what role do creators, do younger people play in, you know, in all of this? And, you know, are they saying or doing some things that is not conducive for, you know, the collective? Is it perpetuating some of this hostility, division, right, opposition, and also potential violence, and that it's being brought up on the internet? I also think this is a lot of people, a lot of creatives and a lot of individuals who are have been doing a lot of work that have been trying to either debunk or trying to prove or make certain connections as to what has happened in regards to the assassination. And that's very much kind of like that Moon Pluto obsessive, everybody trying to figure out what happened and whether or not it was real or whether or not, you know, it was planned and who was in on it, or was it just, you know, some like Oswald situation. So once again, not going to speak on that. I'm just kind of connecting the dots for you guys. So that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see. I assume this full moon in itself may very well be bringing up some very significant or very damning information. I remember saying to you guys, 29 degrees of Capricorn represents kind of like the darker meetings, the decisions that are being made, the allies, the conversations in back rooms about power and control. You throw that in with a conjunction to Pluto, and it's definitely shining a light on the public reaction and opinion of three-letter agencies or the FBI, or, you know, what happened with, you know, Homeland Security or the Secret Service. And people are going to have very strong opinions about this stuff because Moon Pluto is like that emotional kind of meltdown. So it's out there. The division is out there. I'm going to keep telling everybody that if we really zoom out, we pull out of this and we ask ourselves, why is the pot being stirred? Why is there so much violence, or why is there so much hate and negativity and hostility? It's because if we're all fighting each other, we can't really make, you know, we can't make ourselves aware of what's really going on. So don't get lost in the show. You guys are watching a show. Okay, that's what's happening. We're all watching a show. When we pull out and we start to look around and go, wait a second, what are we being distracted from? And we're all in this together, and we need to be making sweeping changes collectively, and we need to be more aware of what's going on with leadership because the sun's in Leo. That's when we start to see changes happen. And like I said, this is a whole series of things unfolding. We'll see this more in the Mars retrograde later this year, where it's going to be this kind of tug of war between the old establishment, Pluto will be in Capricorn again, and Mars coming into Leo, and it's going to be all these young bloods, younger people, and it's going to be like new leaders that are going to be emerging, and we're going to kind of see a bit of a power struggle that's going to happen with that, Pluto at 29 degrees. My goodness, about almost 3 months of that. So it's going to be a lot. And you guys are probably going to see that really start to unfold the next couple of days, where there could be some real damning information revolving around things that happen on stage, right? Just for a heads up also, we're also going to be seeing that there has been other Pluto oppositions. So you guys might want to take a look back on what happened on July 12th, 2024, not too long ago. That's when we had Venus opposed Pluto. And then take a look at what was going on in your life July 2nd. That was the last time that Mercury opposed Pluto, okay? Now, you're probably wondering, okay, this sounds like some heavy stuff. Like, how do I work with this energy? First of all, acknowledging that it's intense is probably part of the process. It's about kind of embracing the process of transformation and personal growth. I feel like self-reflection is so necessary. Like, we have to do that. And it's about taking time to examine our inner world. And this can mean also looking at our fears, our desires, and our motivation. Pluto is about the underworld. It's about all of that yucky stuff, that shadow stuff that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to see. And I really feel like this is about individuals, especially with the Mercury retrograde coming up, looking around going like, how can I be better? How can I be a better person? How can I not feed into what's kind of going on in the collective? How do I not perpetuate that? How do I lead by example? How do I teach my kids to be different? How do I learn how to be, kinder and not conditional with people? That's what I think a lot of this is going to be about. It's about not letting Pluto kind of ice your heart over. So this is also about cultivating self-awareness, which you will get if you're practicing self-reflection. Pay attention to your reactions and your behaviors. Strive to respond consciously rather than acting impulsively. It's going to be hard because this is a fixed opposition. It's going to be challenging because there's going to be a lot of peer pressure to conform, or people are going to be afraid of getting canceled, or there's going to be a sense of being afraid of what your friends are going to think or what people are going to say online. That's going to come up. But I also feel like if we can be mindful that the intense energies in the sky, we cannot play into the drama. We can take a little bit of time maybe before we make big decisions or announcements. We're not reacting out of fear. We're not letting fear kind of run the show. And we're aware that there is going to be some sense of power struggle that's kind of going on in the world. So we're not kind of feeding into it. With oppositions, be open to embracing change, right? This is about letting go of what doesn't serve you and being willing to adapt to new circumstances. So know that this is already kind of baked into the full moon, even though we're not going to see the opposition for like another day or so. It's really important for you to use this as a full moon to be like, I am not dealing with this stuff anymore. I'm going to release it. It's done. It's time to kind of take the trash out. So embrace change, seek support, reach out to friends, family, or even for some of you guys, Pluto can represent therapy. It could be working with a healer. It could be working through trauma. It can be working through grief. And so if you need emotional support during this time, like, it's important to ask for it. This is such an amazing time as we're starting to see, Mercury come into Virgo pretty soon in retrograde. If we feel like we need to get back to therapy, or we need to get back to, the gym, or we need to kind of get back into a healthier habit, this is a wonderful time to start implementing some of this stuff. So if some stuff's coming up where you're getting triggered and, trauma is kind of coming to the surface and you're in your feelings and you're realizing like, wow, I'm seeing some stuff that I don't like within myself, this is the time to be able to kind of course correct it. What you want to watch out for, and this is what you want to be mindful of, because there are pitfalls. Like I said, power struggles. And when I say power struggles, I'm talking, engaging in manipulative or controlling behavior. No, we don't want to do that this week. If you see it, you want to, I'm not going to say turn a blind eye, but do not engage, right? It's about not engaging. It's also about striving for healthy communication and mutual respect and not letting other people push you around and not feeling threatened by other people. Leo is the self, right? And so with the sun in opposition to Pluto, there can be themes of self-sabotage that can come up. I think it's about being aware of any self-destructive tendencies, such as substance abuse, emotional eating, anything that is going to be self-harm, anything where you're inflicting something in yourself. We do not want to do that. That's really important that we're not self-sabotaging. And also recognize that there can be some discomfort that can come with this opposition, but that's part of the transformation that's taking place. Don't resist the process. Trust that growth and evolution are ultimately for your highest good. So if something ends, it's being like, okay, this is the end, and how am I going to react to this, right? Powerful time for growth, guys, and transformation. So I hope you guys embrace it. I hope that it helps you really evolve, and maybe some of these things that you've been working through for the last month are finally coming full circle, and it's going to help you feel more empowered by finally being like, that's enough of that. All right, let's get into the week ahead. I want to start obviously with today. So if you guys are watching on Sunday, and let me know, how are you guys doing with this full moon? It's a lot, man. It's some heavy stuff. I would just say take it easy. There's pros and cons. If you guys haven't already seen my full moon in Capricorn, because this is the second full moon in Capricorn, so it's a blue moon, check that video out. It's been out for a little while. But just to give you the Reader's Digest version, we very early this morning are having a full moon in Capricorn at 29 degrees. That is an anaretic degree, which means it's time for us to finally complete something. So look at Capricorn in your chart. You've been working on it pretty hard the last month or so, and stuff may be coming up for you that feels critical last minute. You might feel exhausted. There might be a sense of being like, okay, I just don't know how I'm going to make it through this situation or this kind of area in my chart. Pluto will be retrograding back, guys. You're going to see this September through November, so it's almost done. But for some of us who haven't been doing our work in this area, it's kind of like a major wake-up call, and it feels rather intense. And I feel like it's going to be about emotional purging because, well, it's conjunct Pluto. Obviously ruled by Saturn. Saturn's retrograde, so there is this feeling of whatever is coming up is as a result of not having our act together. There not being leadership, there not being boundaries, limitations, there not being stability or security, right? There's going to be a lot of like, how did this happen? How did you drop the ball? How did I drop the ball? Why didn't this get completed? And we can feel like we're kind of in crunch time with some stuff. So we're moving through that, but it's very early that we have the full moon. So by the time you guys are watching this, the full moon has just completed, but we're going to feel the intensity as, the next 48 hours kind of go as the sun comes into an opposition with Pluto. So it's still hanging around for a little bit. Something else you want to pay attention to is that today is going to be on the 21st, the very first of what will be 3 Mercury-Uranus squares. So Mercury square Uranus, it basically means that there's some tension. Mercury in Leo is bold, it's loud, it's creative, it's lovable. And when we see Mercury square off with Uranus, it means that there is a meeting of the minds. Plans go differently. There's some shocks and surprises. We get some news we didn't like. We can't believe it. We're like mind blown. I think that's a good term for Mercury square Uranus. And it's at 26 degrees, so it's going to be about physical things. It could be about money. It could be unexpected exchanges about resources. It could be some shocking news about banking, or something that may potentially be having a pretty big impact on the markets. As you guys know, we're already in Mercury retrograde shadow, so we're not having the retrograde to the beginning of August, but because there's several of these squares in the midst of the retrograde, I feel like it's important to kind of see what happens with this square and see how it plays out. May give you some insight as to like what you're kind of working through. If you guys didn't check my Mercury retrograde in Virgo video, check it out, because the retrograde starts in Virgo, goes into Leo. I go in depth and I talk about how some of the Mercury retrograde is about how the things that we say, the things that we're thinking, the way that we express ourselves has some pretty big physical or financial implications. Okay, so like I gave you the example of, like Tenacious D being on stage and they say something, and then obviously, tour gets canceled. Obviously that's gonna hit somebody's pocketbook, right? That's a perfect example of this. So the things that you say can hurt you, or they can help you. They could liberate you. Uranus is here to free you. So when you free your mind and you kind of get out of this feeling of, oh, I'm afraid that, you know, if I say this, it's, you know, it's going to reflect this, that, or the other. I'm not encouraging people to say things that are going to be disrespectful. I'm encouraging you guys to really focus on keeping an open mind. And maybe, you know, I kind of see this as, you know, some people are going to tell you exactly who they are with this transit, right? Some people are going to just totally put their foot in their mouth, and you're going to be like, wow, now I'm seeing their true colors. That may be how you guys use it. I don't know. But watch for the shocking, surprising stuff that happens today, and it's going to give you some insight of what we're unpacking for the better part of the next several weeks. Watch the caffeine, any stimulants, anything like that. We can be kind of like on overload with Mercury square Uranus with information. Too much media, you know, too much reading, too much back and forth, and we can just feel mentally stressed. Midday, we're going to see that the, you know, the moon is moving through Aquarius. So actually, by the time you guys are watching this, the moon's already in Aquarius. And it's going to come into conjunction with Pluto in the kind of later morning. And then it's going to start separating with Pluto. So it's like, oh my gosh. Guys, this morning is very intense. There's a lot of pressure. There's some kind of breakdown that's going on. So here's how you work with it. I'm pretty sure I told you guys this last week, but it's trining Mars, okay? Moon Pluto is, yes, we're having emotional kind of crisis, but it's in the sign of Aquarius, which means everybody is kind of reacting, shock and surprise to something. And the trine to Mars is saying, rather than having a meltdown, let's do something about it. Let's leap into action. Right, Mars and Gemini. Let's make a move. Let's talk about it. Let's kind of call a friend. Let's bring people together. This is probably going to have the internet on fire, I'm assuming, Sunday, Monday, with some of the aspects that we're going to be seeing. Anyway, we're feeling very, very, very strongly the Mercury square Uranus, because as soon as that moon gets in Aquarius, we're looking at what's happening with Uranus. Mercury square is saying something about the shocking, surprising news or information that is emerging is going to have the public going, whoa, I can't believe that. Did you hear the news? Right? So something's coming. And then on top of that, we are also going to be seeing that the sun in the final moments of 29 degrees of Cancer is coming into a trine with Neptune. Softer, a little bit more subtle. It does feel kind of divine. There is some sense of feeling inspired. It can be very romantic. It can be very intuitive. But 29 degrees says, let it all go. Let it wash away, right? That was what was kind of cool about the full moon in Capricorn, is the sextile to Neptune that was saying, hey guys, there's some big changes going on with power and leadership, full moon in Capricorn. And it's about people who are hiding away, slipping away, forgetting, getting sick, staying, you know, kind of behind the scenes, or they are just kind of finding their exit, right? So the sun, which still rules leadership, is trining that. Interesting. All right. So that's another indication that I think we're going to be hearing some pretty big news about leaders changing, stepping down, you know, moving away from positions of power. I think that's, yeah, that's very likely. Let's talk positives, right? Mars trine Pluto is very powerful. It's about not focusing on the problem, focusing on the solution, okay? So this is about making things happen. What else I like is that we do have Venus in Leo sextile Jupiter. So, you know, Venus in Leo is very romantic, it's very affectionate, it's very creative, it's daring, it's bold. And that sextile to Jupiter makes us feel inspired, it makes love feel bigger, it makes opportunities seem so much more sparkly. Obviously, sextiles are kind of easy angles, but, you know, Jupiter in Gemini is having us think bigger, it's having us communicate in a much more evolved way. It's encouraging us to open our mind and see different perspectives. And it's also helping us when it comes to communication. So that sextile to Venus is saying, like, we can talk through things, we can work through things. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. So there's so many things to unpack with this. It's crazy. I would just say that there's definitely a lot of social, chatty, you know, kind of communicative energy with some of these air trines, and then also the sextiles to Leo. So there's that. In the later PM hours, okay, will be when the Mercury-Uranus square perfects. So it's not actually going to happen until right around dinner time in at least my neck of the woods. I'm Central Time, so it might be different for you guys. And honestly, we start feeling the square within a degree or two. So some of the shocking, surprising news could actually be happening, you know, like Saturday night or this morning. It can be coming out right when this squares. So watch for that. Also issues revolving around transactions, you know, very much Leo is about markets. So things that are news that are going to potentially affect the markets. It could be, you know, what people are kind of looking at or what's being traded, especially with crypto. Guys, the full moon is right on Bitcoin's sun. I don't know if you guys know that, but yeah, that seems pretty significant. But markets is Leo and Taurus is money. And obviously, you know, this is Sunday PM, so there's nothing that's trading on the traditional stock market until tomorrow, but like the crypto stuff can be kind of buck wild with some of these squares. Obviously, crypto is always open, right? No sleep for the wicked. So yeah, there's still some shocking, surprising communication stuff that's going on this evening, so watch for that. All right, this is going to take us into Monday the 22nd. And when we wake up on Monday, we are going to see that the moon is still in Aquarius. So I've got my eyeballs on Uranus coming out of the Mercury square, and I'm looking at Saturn. Nothing's really kind of happening here quite yet. And this is when we are starting to come into the Sun-Pluto opposition vibes. So that's not actually going to be taking place until closer to Tuesday, but still, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that theme is kind of in the air. We've got a lot of lunar aspects that are going to be happening on Monday, so let me roll through these. Okay, so the first thing that I notice is that the moon is going to come into a trine with Jupiter early in the morning. You got to schedule a meeting. You got to make plans with friends. If you have to plan a trip, if you have to, you know, make a post, or if you're trying to kind of get like more engagement, Monday morning is a good time to do it. Especially because you're also going to see the moon in opposition to Venus, so it's going to leave people wanting more. So if you're somebody who's a creator or an entertainer, or you're just wanting to kind of like, you know, have a little bit of the spotlight, definitely a good time to do it. I like the communication aspects between the moon and Jupiter. Now, we will also start to see that there will be a square with Uranus and Taurus. That's going to be happening later in the day. And we'll see a sextile to Chiron. So essentially the first half of Monday is a little bit easier to navigate. I kind of like the moon trine Jupiter with the Venus opposition. I feel like that's about like being like, yeah, give the people what they want, you know, like showbiz type energy, like somebody like performing and putting their stuff out there and showing other people what they've got and like really making a splash. And I feel like with Venus in opposition to the moon, it leaves people wanting more. So I think there's going to be a lot of like really like clickbaity things going on social media and also on the internet that is getting people kind of wrapped up in some kind of brewing drama. And then when the moon starts coming into a sextile here. And that sextile is going to be around 23 degrees. That can be about kind of like feeling like we have a sense of like connection to community. We're feeling more accepted and we're not feeling so isolated because the moon's making a nice aspect to Chiron. So we're feeling like, oh, I found my people or my tribe, or I've fit in, or I've met, you know, new people who I can hang out with. So that's nice. And then the last aspect that we're going to see, which is going to be late, pretty much in the middle of the night, is that moon will come into a square with Uranus. So that turbulence is still there. We're still seeing that friction between, you know, who we are in the collective and who we are with friends or networks or togetherness, and also our values, our monies, our resources. So there's some kind of tension here. But like I said, it's going to happen overnight. So it's not going to affect everybody the same way. All right, so then that's going to take us into the 23rd. This is going to be Tuesday, and on Tuesday morning, just barely, it's the final moments of having the moon in Aquarius. But something that you guys are going to, you know, be feeling is that Sun-Pluto opposition. So, you know, on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it is in play. It is starting now to separate on Tuesday, but the actual exact opposition is going to be it's going to be happening earlier in let's see, when was that? 0:52. So it looks like it's going to be the 23rd, so Tuesday around, well, 2 a.m. Central Time. So it's going to be the middle of the night. So that could leave things open later in the day on the 23rd for there to be some kind of, you know, urgent news that's coming out, right? And I'll show you why. So we take this to the morning. The moon crosses into Pisces. Okay, that's going to be around mid-morning. And let's see, what else are we going to see? And that was the moon square Uranus opposed Mercury. That's what it was right here. So 5 a.m. on the 23rd, moon in opposition to Mercury. What happened? Give me the news. Did you hear? You know, people trying to connect, communicate, and there is some kind of communication breakdown. So there could be issues with transactions. There could be issues like, guys, if you're trading, if you have money that you have sitting on exchanges, if you have money waiting on the sidelines to cash in, if you generally set levels with stuff, you want to watch what's going on the 23rd, because this makes me feel like with Mercury in the shadow and the moon in opposition to Mercury, where people aren't able to connect and communicate, and it squares Uranus, there could be some quick things that could happen very fast that could impact your ability to get money on and off of stuff. So watch that on the 23rd. Then the moon's going to ingress into Pisces, very different vibe. Things chill a little bit. When the moon goes into Pisces, I'm looking at Jupiter. Okay. Nothing's really happening with Jupiter. We're still feeling the sextile here to Venus. But the moon in Pisces is quiet, reflective. This is when we kind of turn inward. This is when we kind of feel a little bit like we kind of need our space. And the moon's going to get roughed up a little bit by Mars in the morning on the 23rd. So the moon square Mars is kind of like, there may be some people in our lives, or there may be situations where we feel like I need to take action, right? Mars is still trying Jupiter. I need to do something. I need to say something. I need to go somewhere. And then the moon is like, I don't know if it's the right time, right? Pisces energy is kind of like, it's mutable. So it's like, okay, when it feels right, that's when I'll do it. So there can be this sense of like, do I do it? Do I not? We're indecisive. We're unsure. Interesting. So that's an interesting aspect. Maybe wait until the moon comes out of the square with Mars. Okay, so that's going to be pretty quick, basically by midday. And then we are also going to see that, let's see. Okay, so that's still the 23rd. Square Mars, and then yeah, the Sun-Pluto opposition is essentially like fading at this point. So not much else is happening here. We're going to continue to see all day on Tuesday. The moon's going to keep moving through Pisces. Sun starts to leave the opposition. That's pretty much it. So then that's going to take us into the 24th. That's Wednesday. And in the morning, the moon is still in Pisces. Interesting stuff going on Wednesday. Wednesday feels very moody to me because the moon's going to meet with Saturn. So there is this emotional restriction. You know, it's difficult to talk about our feelings. It's difficult to, you know, maybe respond to things. Maybe we're feeling like, ooh, I don't know how to communicate. Moon is square Jupiter, the traditional ruler. So there could be big emotional feelings. We're very empathic. We're absorbing things. And we don't know if we want to kind of hide under the covers, Moon, Saturn, or if we want to get out there, talk to people, discuss things, you know, be mobile. This could also be storms, you know, Moon, Saturn in Pisces. We could be seeing issues revolving around structures breaking down with water. We might hear more about dam stuff, issues with, you know, levees, or, you know, issues with bridges. And the square to Jupiter is how that's potentially impacting travel, or we're hearing about it more so in the media or on the news. So right after that conjunction, then you're going to start to see the moon pass Saturn. Okay, so once it starts coming into conjunction with Saturn by midday, I would consider the whole second half of Wednesday a bit of like a wash. Because that moon is going to then be between Saturn and Neptune. Okay, so Saturn wants to limit, Neptune wants to dissolve, And this is all obviously in Pisces. Some difficult aspects, you know, especially because this is all a quincunx, all this Leo energy. Leo wants to be out there and it's bold and it's daring, and Pisces is like, I don't know if I really want to be in the spotlight. You know, I'm not too sure. I think I would rather kind of keep to myself. I'm not sure about the situation. Still more issues involving storms or, you know, changes with weather, issues with water. That comes up a lot on the 24th as well. But that moon between Saturn and Neptune feels very moody to me. It does not sit right with me. And something else that I notice also that's going to happen is you're going to start to see Mercury. I think it's going to happen. Yeah, that's going to be more on the 25th. Okay, so pull out your red markers. You guys know I always warn you when there's like a weird day. Thursday's a weird day, okay? There's a lot going on Thursday to unpack. But I'm really looking at Mercury coming into a quincunx or an inconjunct with the moon and Neptune, okay? 29 degrees. You guys know how I feel about this 29 degrees. Something pressing is going on. So Thursday is a big communication day, right? And I say this because Mercury, number one, is in shadow, but number two, it's quincunx, this moon Neptune, which is mystical, magical, but it's also about drinking, it's drugs, it's self-undoing, it's mental health issues, it's conspiracy, it's things that are hidden. And that is at odds with Mercury in Leo. When we see an inconjunct, or I guess a quincunx, weird stuff happens. And it's hard because it's almost like Mercury wants to get the message out, but it's feeling the static of the shadow. And there's a blind spot. There's something missing. There's something hidden. There's something that's covered up. I heard recently there's discussions, they were saying that I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe they were talking about that there may be a change in the ruling relating to what's his name? Perry from Friends. Is it Michael Perry? Is that his name? To his death. They are now saying apparently they may be ruling his death a murder. And so I think about Mercury in Leo, it could be about a really prominent, ending or a situation involving an actor and what really happened to them. I wonder, are we going to hear more about that? Or is there going to be some other kind of conspiracy involving, a celebrity in their death or their demise in some weird or suspicious kind of situation revolving around their death with that aspect? Conspiracy and hidden agendas is very moon Neptune. I would just say listen to your gut, because the moon's conjunct Neptune and it's not resonating with Mercury. And so you might be told something and you might be like, that doesn't sound right. Or like, I don't really think that's the case. Or like, something's telling me this is off. What I was thinking about also was that, when was the Hawaii fires? Was that last year? I think it was, right? I remember the Venus retrograde in Leo. And I remember saying to people that because Venus would retrograde and it would square off with something, I think it was some aspect with Uranus, that there was potentially going to be fires. We were going to see forest fires, we were going to see some kind of fire or whatever, and that it may impact children or schools or something of that nature, and that it was going to quincunx Neptune at the same degree, and that we wouldn't know how it started or where it came from. And my God, that ended up being a huge thing, because, well, there's many parts of that are still not being rebuilt. As many of you guys know, it was devastating what happened with the fires. Lots of drama revolving around whether or not big millionaires and billionaires were moving in and potentially wanting to buy land or wanting to rebuild, and whether or not they would get their homes back. Everything was boarded up. Nobody could go there, right? You guys know the story. But also, there was a ton of children that went missing from that fire. Supposedly, they were saying that the kids were sent home that day for whatever reason, and a lot of children are still missing. And so I think about that Venus retrograde and the quincunx to Neptune, and everybody's just kind of like wanting to smooth it over. You don't hear about it in the news anymore. And this is one of those really weird, suspicious transits. Again, do we hear more about the death of a celebrity and figure out what it was? Do we hear more about the fires in Hawaii and what really happened? We'll see. As Mercury retrogrades, it'll hit that aspect several times. Something else we're going to see is that, you know, as the moon's coming into conjunction with Neptune, it's also sextiling Uranus. So this is about something waking up in us. We're feeling a little bit more, okay, there's something happening, something's going on. So we're picking up on that. And it may just mean that we're having to kind of feel more into our bodies and what our intuition is telling us. And then you're going to see pretty early in the morning, that moon is going to ingress into Aries. Very different energy. This is going to make the rest of, I think, Thursday quite active. So right when that moon comes into Aries, I'm looking at Mars, right? And so this is going to actually, Thursday, we can get a lot of stuff done once we've taken our time to kind of work through some of the kinks in the morning. Moon sextiles Mars, so that's really wonderful for getting out, getting active, being independent, and like moving our bodies or writing or learning or planning a trip, communicating or connecting. We are also going to be seeing that the moon is going to come into a trine with the sun. So this is a nice aspect. There's a lot of fire kind of breaking things up in this chart because it's been very earth and water heavy. So when the moon's in Aries, we have to focus on our goals. We have to take the initiative. Sometimes we have to do things alone. And that trine to the sun means that we feel like things are actually kind of flowing a little bit better, or that we're able to, you know, make the magic happen. These are fire trines, so it's about creativity and being bold and taking chances and traveling and, you know, having fun. So I like that aspect. I feel like things start to kind of come together there. I also like the moon coming into conjunction with the North Node because it is activating Mars. So it's saying that individuals are paying attention to their emotional instincts, to their needs, and they're more aware of what they need to do or what they need to say for themselves, right? So second half of Thursday is great. We will also see that the sun in Leo is coming into a sextile with Mars. So much Mars energy. Mars moon, Mars sextile the moon, Mars sextile the sun. Second half of Thursday is like, there is no reason to not be getting things done, right? And then we're going to see Mercury drop into Virgo. Okay, so that's going to happen later in the day. So maybe you guys will really feel that shift. Depends if you're Mercury ruled. I think you might. And remember, guys, that this is the sign that Mercury will retrograde back through the beginning of August. So with Mercury in Virgo, it's at home, it's in its domicile. It loves to be of service. It loves to organize, to clean, to help people, to water the plants, to do the to-do list, to take care of the pets and the animals. It's attention to details. It's very specific. It's able to critique things and make them better and clean things up and renew them. So I like Mercury in Virgo. I think even though it's in shadow, I don't mind it. So that's going to definitely be a little bit of like a boost for communication, even in spite of the shadow. It's no longer seeing some of that friction that it has been seeing earlier in the week. And that's pretty much it for Thursday. So that moon's going to make contact with the North Node on Thursday night. Take a look around and kind of see from about mid-afternoon to the evening, what are you doing, right? What are you doing for you? That's what I would be asking myself. What are you doing for you? Because the moon conjunct the North Node means that there are fateful things happening. It's in a trine to the sun, so it's basically saying I'm going to kind of listen to my instincts and go where the passion is, go where the fun's going to be, go where the creativity and the romance is going to be, and it should be pretty action-packed. And then we are going to take this into Friday the 26th. And in the morning, the moon is still in, it's still in Aries. Nothing's changing there. We are now starting to see that the moon will come into a trine with Venus in Leo. So that's very warm, affectionate, loving. That's also opening the door for individuals to kind of act on their impulses when it comes to relationships or dating, connecting with other people, being creative. And the moon is going to continue to go through Aries until it's coming into conjunction with Chiron. So that's the only real other thing we're going to see. And then the moon will sextile Jupiter. So this is the more that we're taking action and being daring, the more we learn, the more we're able to, you know, be active, the more we're able to, you know, maybe plan things, learn things. Take it upon yourself on Friday to try to learn something new. I like that, like moon sextile Mars, and Mars is heading towards Jupiter, so it's a great day to also like be multitasking. I think I talk about this in my Mars and Gemini video, but multitasking, like this is such a great time where if you want to learn a new skill or if you want to learn about a particular subject, whether you're commuting or you're working out or maybe you're walking the dog or you're cleaning the house, listen to something. Use this Mars Jupiter energy in Gemini to be able to kind of kill two birds with one stone, right? Looks like the trine to Venus is going to get picked up between the moon right around the kind of early evening. And this is interesting. Venus quincunx Saturn. So it's like Venus is going to feel like something's missing. It's like, what am I missing? And it's at 18 degrees. So this can also be news revolving around health that's kind of coming out, which I think is probably likely. The Mercury retrograde is going to start in Virgo. So we're definitely going to be hearing that there's more talk about reevaluating or bringing up information pertaining to health and wellness. So with Venus quincunx Saturn, there can be this feeling of something's not sitting right in relationships, or something seems off, or I'm not kind of getting what I need. And 18 degrees deals with jobs. It deals also with clients. It also deals with health. So there can be a sense of trying to remedy or kind of figure out what's wrong in some of these situations. But be proactive, right? Moon sextile Jupiter. And Moon conjunct Chiron is also about healing oneself. How are we able to heal ourselves? Such a good thing to be really focusing on when the Moon's conjunct Chiron and also Mercury in Virgo. A lot of this is going to be about kind of reassessing some of our habits and our patterns and our tendencies, and whether or not some of the things that we're doing, are we doing it to ourselves? Are we our own worst enemy? Something to kind of think about. Anyway, so that Chiron conjunction will happen in the evening. Obviously, that's great for self-healing, tending to wounds, but also Moon-Mars is, Moon in Aries is a Moon-Mars kind of energy. This can mean that the best way to be able to kind of heal oneself, with Mars and Gemini being the dispositor, is journaling, right? Go for a walk or go for a jog, or have a conversation, get the words out. Don't hold on to it. And be mindful that, words can have a little bit of a bite with Mars and Gemini. All right, so this is now going to take us into Saturday, the 27th. And that moon is still in Aries, very early in the morning. And we are going to see that it will segue, and it's going to move into Taurus. It looks like that's going to happen in the early afternoon. And right off the bat, the moon's going to square Pluto. Okay, so just know that about Saturday. It's ruled by Venus, and Venus is starting to build into the square with Uranus. And so, we'll talk about this next week, but Mercury squared Uranus, today. If you're watching on Sunday, Mercury's in a square Uranus for the first time. And that represents kind of losing our mind or feeling kind of stressed out, or difficult conversations and things kind of going haywire. That is seeding something, okay? So the conversations, the things that happen with the square, it's seeding something. So then when Venus comes into the square, that's going to be how it impacts us financially. That's going to be how it impacts us emotionally, our relationships. Same thing when the sun comes in a square with Uranus. So if you kind of follow what's happened, like when, for example, Mercury opposed Pluto, and then Venus opposed Pluto, and then the sun opposes Pluto, Mercury will lay the breadcrumbs. He'll say, hey, this thing might be coming, or there's people putting out articles saying, oh, we heard this is going to happen, or this is what I think is next. Mercury is a prophet, right? He's about divination. And then Venus comes through, and then you start to see the public opinions change of certain people. And people have really intense feelings, emotions. And then the sun makes the opposition to Pluto, which we're still yet to see as you guys are watching this. And then we may actually really find out, oh yeah, so-and-so did have a stroke, or yeah, he is finally stepping down. That kind of stuff is going to happen. So my point is that as Venus is coming into the square and Uranus is coming into the square, we will see how this will impact us physically or financially, right? Or, the kind of the economy or the markets, we're going to see some of that stuff that's going to kind of rattle a little bit. So Venus is starting to feel that pressure. It's a wide square, but she's going to be feeling it all next week. So we can kind of start feeling where, wow, that I feel like I do, kind of get a little anxious about, my budget, or I am feeling like I'm a little restless in my relationship, or, maybe I do need a little bit more fun. Venus and Uranus, when they mix, it's kind of like off and on, Anyway, Moon square Pluto brings up some of the same stuff that we saw during the Capricorn full moon. Obviously, it's not a conjunction, it's a square. So this represents more of the energy where we're responding to some of the changes that are going on collectively. And Moon in Taurus wants peace, it wants comfort, it wants to be cozy, it wants to indulge. And it's hard maybe to find that with that square to Pluto. So do some grounding on Saturday, get comfortable, take some time. It is going to be a little bit of a pinch too, because we're going to have the moon square the sun. So right when the moon comes out of the square with Pluto, then it's squaring the sun. So it's creating a T-square. And it's basically saying, in the midst of all of this intensity or this drama or this division, this separation, where do I find peace? Where do I find peace, right? Cooking, gardening, relaxing, creating. These are all Taurus things. It's about finding pleasure. So there can be some critical things that's coming up about, spending and budgeting and money and stuff like that. But that moon's definitely going to bring some stuff up. And this could be more of that financial implications for some things that people say and things that people do. And we will see the moon start coming into, let's see, what other aspect is it going to make on the 27th? Looks like it's going to, it'll take a little bit of time for it to make that sextile, but it is making a trine to Mercury. So it is able to say, hey, we need to talk about this, or this is what I need for safety or security, or, I need to get something organized, or I need to be able to kind of clean up a budget. That would be wonderful, actually, with that trine to the moon. So we do have the opportunity to communicate and kind of work through it. All right, and then that moon's going to keep moving into the PM hours. Am I seeing anything else? No, that's pretty much it. Okay, so then this is now going to take us into Sunday the 28th. And on the 28th, we wake up in the morning and the moon is still in Taurus, right there. And it looks like now the moon's going to start coming into a sextile with Saturn. So the more that we're grounded, we're reflecting, we're meditating, we have, kind of a plan, we have a vision, we're reflecting on responsibility, we're able to take some kind of action, we're able to build something. And then we are going to see, what else? The moon and Venus will square in the PM hours. That's not necessarily bad, but the moon in Taurus is exalted, so it really wants to focus on stability and being calm. And Venus in Leo might say, well, but I don't want to stay home in my PJs. I want to go out and I want to, go to a movie. I want to go to dinner. I want to go on a date. So there can be some differences of, kind of preferences when it comes to how we're socializing that can be happening Sunday night. And then we will start to see that happen. It looks like it's going to be in the evening, and it's also going to start sextiling Saturn. So not everybody's going to have the same preferences when it comes to what we want to do Sunday night. That's for sure, especially when it comes to if you have a date night, or if you're, trying to debate what you guys want to make for dinner, what kind of movie you want to watch. People are going to have different preferences. So just know that that's going to kind of be in the air. And that's pretty much the week at a glance. So we're going to obviously come back throughout the week. We'll talk about what's happening. I do want to take you guys through the Sun-Pluto opposition, though, because I do think that's important, just to kind of, give you like the grand finale of whatever has been a little bit of like back and forth for you here recently. So let's go back. Let's look at that. And I'm going to tell you guys for each and every one of the 12 rising signs where the opposition is taking place. So let me pull that up. There we go. All right. And what I would like to do is I'm going to show you where it's happening. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about what they rule, just to give you some more food for thought. All right, there we go. So this is going to be the Western whole sign predictions for you guys of what to expect with the Sun-Pluto opposition. Actually, let me move this forward a little bit so that way you guys can see the exact degree. That would be better. There we go. I'm a Western astrologer. I do not practice Vedic astrology. I'm going to be using the whole sign method for you guys today, so you can take a look at where this opposition is taking place. Obviously, this is going to be the most intense for my fixed signs, in particular, my Leos, my Aquariuses, and my Scorpio risings. But Taurus, you're going to feel it too. And if you have any personal planets or angles between 0 and 2 degrees of the fixed signs, you're going to be feeling this, okay? So let's take a look at this. I want to give you guys just a little food for thought. Obviously, you can listen to your rising sign. This is going to tell you exactly where in your life this is playing out, but you can also listen to your sun and your moon sign, or if you like your progress chart, you can do that as well. If you happen to use Placidus, just you have to look at where 0 degrees of Leo and Pluto in Aquarius are in your chart. Okay, so for my Aries and Aries risings, I'm going to start with you guys first. So you got the sun moving through Leo Aries, okay, so it's moving through your 5th house, and you've got Pluto that is retrograde in Aquarius in your 11th house. So the 11th house is friendships and social groups. This could be the internet, this could be your group of friends, this could be some kind of group chat. It could also represent some kind of like creative, collaboration group, or like a group of people that, you're working with in some capacity. So you have the sun, which rules your 5th house of creativity, joy, children, dating. It can also be about self-expression. It can also be about your heart space, is in an opposition to Pluto. Now, for you, Aries, Pluto rules your 8th house, which can be about changes, transformations. It could be about intimacy. It could be about joint resources. So you're going to see this opposition between the sun in its home sign, in its home house, to Pluto in the 11th. And for me, this is really about seeing that there can be some situations where there's some intense social interactions. You just have to expect it. I do think there could be some major transformations within your social circle. I do think that it is possible that there can be some tension between you and a group of people, or you and another person, right? And you'll have a Mercury retrograde in Leo in your 5th house. You're going to have a Mars retrograde later this year in that house as well. And I think this is really telling the story of you're kind of going, well, who am I? And what makes me happy? And like, what do I have to say? And what do I want to create? What do I love? Who am I dating? What's my relationship like, with my inner child? What am I doing to kind of harbor a better relationship with that inner child? It can also be about your children, right? 5th house. And then the 11th house is groups, friends, other people, other people's kids, other people's lovers. And so it can represent that there can be some drama between like what you want, what is going to make you happy, and other people. And the drama that can come from other people because you're kind of like, I'm doing me, right? So watch for that. That's definitely some food for thought on that opposition. Good luck. All right, I got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? Hold on to your shorts. I know it's been the last week or so, it's probably been a lot for you with the Mars-Uranus conjunction. So in that sense, that's kind of dying down. But you are going to be having a Sun-Pluto opposition. So you've got the sun going through its home sign, Leo, right? And it's lighting up your 4th house of your home, your family. Maybe it's your emotions. Maybe it's something to do with roommates. Maybe it's something to do with the past. And the sun can also be, Taurus, about like a man coming to visit and staying in your home. It can be about a father figure. It could be a brother. It could be about a romantic partner in your home. And it's opposing Pluto in your 10th house of career and reputation and your public image. So it's possible, because Pluto rules your 7th house of relationships, that there is some kind of tension that's brewing between what's going on with your home life and what's going on with your career life. The tension could also be about a relationship you have with a business partner or a client or a spouse, and really feeling like something is transforming and changing when it comes to your career and your reputation, and the impact it's actually having within your home and your family. So career challenges and challenges in your public image, either or can be happening. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I'm confident that with like a Mercury retrograde pretty soon in your 4th house, and also Pluto kind of soon leaving your 10th house just briefly, you're going to have the opportunity to kind of regroup and kind of go like, maybe I do need to make some changes with work. how is work impacting me or my family or my home life or my private life, and like what am I kind of reorganizing here, right? And your family may remind you of that. That may very well be something that they remind you of. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys will be experiencing the sun transiting the sign of Leo in your 3rd house, and it'll be opposing Pluto in your 9th house. All right, so for you guys, my Geminis, all right, you know, the sun going through the 3rd house, it's in its own sign, it's in Leo, definitely is a house that deals with traveling, learning, communication. It can be about relationships to siblings. It can also be about neighbors. And this is opposing Pluto in your 9th house, all right? You know, Pluto rules your 6th house, which is about scheduling, health, habits, and routine. So something when it comes to your 3rd house, which could be about, you know, transformative travel experiences, or, you know, transformative things that you're reading or that you're learning, and like, you know, some kind of like educational pursuit or some kind of conversation, some book you pick up helps you kind of like break down or move through or have shifts in regards to your beliefs. And the beliefs could be about productivity, it could be about health, it could be about habits, it could be about organization. I think it's a little bit of an easier aspect for you. You've got a sextile to, you know, your Gemini placements, and you've got some trines happening between Mars and Pluto. So it looks like, you know, you're seeking this information. You're seeking something that's going to help you see the bigger picture, because you're wanting to take action, and you know, it may mean also that you're trying to make time, or you're trying to kind of, you know, schedule more time for writing or for learning or for working with like a teacher or a mentor, right? Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the sun transiting through the sign of Leo in your 2nd house. It'll oppose Pluto in your 8th house. All right, so for you guys, Cancer, you know, the 2nd house, it's about money, it's about resources, it's about your self-esteem, it's about possessions. So lots of planets in this house, a Mercury retrograde coming. There's a lot of like, what do I have? How do I get more? How do I reorganize something about my belongings? How do I rework something about my values? You know, how do I kind of clean up my finances maybe? And, you know, the sun in opposition to Pluto is highlighting your 5th house ruler, right? The 2nd house is what you own. It's your possessions, and the 8th house is other people's stuff. So support, alimony, insurance, taxes, you know, partners' resources, inheritances. This is all the 8th house stuff. And Aquarius can be about the connections where you get money, you know, the support, or the groups, or the companies that you do business with, or the, you know, places where you keep money. So sun opposed Pluto might mean that there's some big changes that are kind of going on for you, revolving around your resources and somebody else's resources. It can also mean deep psychological transformations. It could also mean that there is some, you know, breakthrough that's kind of happening, or you're, you know, breaking away from some kind of power struggle over finances or resources or what other people are holding over you. And like, there's the sense of you like really starting to kind of like build and feel a little bit more confident, or feel a little bit more stable when it comes to your resources, and not feeling like somebody's kind of got their thumb on you. This can also be about, you know, chances that you take with money as well, because of Pluto's connection to the 5th house. So it can feel like big risk, big reward. That's the other way of looking at it. Good luck. All right, we got Leo and Leo rising. Obviously, Leo, it's a Leo party this week. Sun, Mercury, Venus in the 1st house is a lot of, what do I love? What do I want? What's best for me, right? What do I need? And you're working through that with the retrograde that's coming up. So the sun is strong in the 1st house, and it's in your home sign, and it's being challenged by this opposition to Pluto. And Pluto rules your 4th house of home and family. So basically, there can be some really significant things going on right now in relationships. You know, Pluto rules your 4th house, so it can be your relationship to family, relationship to roommates. It could be your relationship to a romantic partner or a spouse. But this is basically a little bit of like a standoff that's happening between you and another person, or something where something has to transform about your relationships because of your needs. And I feel like maybe there is time apart from a partner because of a home change or a living situation change. There is time away from a relationship because you're kind of dealing or you're focusing on something that's going on with like a home or a family situation. But this opposition, because 7th house is partnerships and marriage, can bring up very intense relationship dynamics. Sometimes it can be power struggles that can be happening with your relationships to other people. The truth is that I would be really careful here, because if you lean too much into Pluto, it is possible that, you know, you could start to doubt yourself a little bit, and you could be very critical of yourself, and it could actually negatively impact that retrograde that you're going to be having. So you want to be focusing on, okay, what's best for me, not letting other people control me or manipulate me or make me feel bad, you know, and that things may come up where you have to prioritize yourself or your emotions or your family right now, and you need to sometimes put relationships on the back burner. All right, good luck, Leo. Let me know how that happens, like what plays out there. All right, so we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You'll be experiencing the sun transit through the sign of Leo, and it'll come into an opposition with Pluto in your 6th house, Virgo. So for you guys, we have got everything getting lit up in the 12th house, which can be spiritual. It can feel very creative. You could be in your own little world. This is also the time where you're kind of preparing and getting ready for birthday season. So there is this feeling of like, as planets go through the 12th house, what am I completing? Like, what am I releasing? What am I letting go of? Or what am I afraid of? Or what am I not, you know, seeing? Or where am I self-sabotaging? That can definitely be a theme for sure, especially because that retrograde's coming. I think about the opposition between the 12th and the 6th house, and essentially both of these houses deal with health and healing. The 12th is more spiritual, psychological, emotional. It's healing centers, it's hospitals, it's therapy offices. But it could also mean that there is a lot of action that's going on right now where you're very introspective and you're really thinking a lot about what you love and what you want and how you can bring more of those things into your life. Now, the opposition is to Pluto in your 6th house, which is about health, habits, and routine, or your schedule or where you work. And it's opposing Pluto, which rules your 3rd house. So I really feel like this is about really reflecting and thinking about what you love and like learning how to communicate and express yourself better with people. This can be about tending to what's going on in your heart space, and like if you're not processing or dealing with emotions, like the impact that that can have on your health or your habits. And I feel like for you guys, there's definitely some potential that we could see some stuff that could pop up relating to health issues or work-related transformations. And you may be feeling like a little in your head about being like, okay, how do I feel about this work change? And like, what's going to happen? And what am I doing? And a lot of this is about taking time to rest and recuperate, because you are coming into some pretty significant changes that I think that's going to be happening with you professionally, especially watching like Mars in your 10th house coming into conjunction with Jupiter. And it's going to be, you know, in a trine to Pluto. Like these are positive things. So this might be kind of like that moment where you kind of catch a breath and you take a little bit of time to just rest and recuperate before you go into what could be a rather busy season. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the sun going through Leo, obviously, in your 11th house of friendships, networks, other people. And it will be opposing Pluto in your 5th house of self-expression, creativity, dating, children, and taking chances, gambling a little bit there. So for you guys, you know, really what's kind of coming up is really themes revolving around intense creative projects and also like working through what can be matters of the heart. You know, the 11th house and all these planets here and Venus, your ruler here, really says that it's a social time. Whether you're hanging out with friends, you're entertaining, you're going to parties, you're joining groups, there is a lot of action that's going on with other people. And, you know, that opposition to Pluto in the 5th house makes me wonder, like, is it making you happy, right? Are you happy around some of the people that you are with? Some of you guys through this retrograde may be getting ready to reconnect and spend time with friends and people you haven't seen for a while. And you might be looking around being like, have I changed? You know, is this really like the type of people I want to hang around with? You know, and you know, Pluto ruling your 2nd house, it's going to be bringing up your values. So it's going to have you asking yourself, do I value some of these friendships? Do I value, you know, being a part of this group or this collective? Is it worth, you know, my participation, is it worth what I'm paying to be a part of this? And it can bring up some challenges revolving around, you know, dating as well. That is very possible with the opposition to Pluto. So if you're dating somebody, you know, the opposition to Pluto is like, well, your friends, you know, being very critical of a romantic partner that you're seeing, right? Or Pluto in your 5th house can be about children, and it can be about whether or not, you know, your kids were playing well or getting on well with other people's kids. And there can kind of be some kind of like friction there. And I could see you trying to kind of bring people together or bring friends together and trying to get them to get along, but there could be a little bit of drama there. That is definitely possible. Good luck, Libra. All right, so we've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. This is going to be an interesting one for you, Scorpio. So you've got the sun going through Leo. It's moving through your 10th house of career and reputation. And it will be making an opposition to Pluto in the 4th house of home and family. So first of all, you're Pluto, okay? And with Pluto in the 4th house, something is changing, is transforming, you're reworking something about your private life, your home, and your family. And the sun going through the 10th house is really putting a spotlight on your career, your reputation. And with that opposition to, you know, one of your ruling planets, it basically means that you may be feeling like there is a dominating force in your life right now when it comes to your career and your work. And that this dominating force may be making it feel difficult for you to make changes with your home or your family, or to relocate, or to, you know, deal with like a family matter. I do feel like this is about transformation of your home life and family dynamics that are needing to happen. And it's about you stepping up and being like, I'm going to be the one to make it happen. It's going to be me. I'm going to be the one to reorganize or reshift things with this up and coming retrograde in your career, to be able to see the, you know, transformation of your home, your family, your space. For some of you guys, it might mean that you're taking time off of work soon, or you're changing directions with your career, or that, you know, because you're looking for a new job, it may impact potentially where you're living, or your family situation is impacting work. But this is definitely a very loud transit. And especially for Scorpio risings, I would say pay attention, because there's some stuff that's coming up that needs to be dealt with prior to the Mars retrograde, which will oppose Pluto, which is going to be later this year. So it's going to start showing you all the stuff that you're going to kind of want to work through. And I think that you may feel pulled in 2 different directions, where like work can just be so demanding in a good way, and you can have a lot of success happening for you. But the question is like, at what cost, right? With Pluto retrograde in the 4th, emotionally, or with your home or your private life. So you're going to kind of weigh your options and see how you can kind of balance some of that stuff out. Hopefully that's helpful. Watch for power struggles with bosses or parents, Scorpio. Please take it easy with that this week. All right, we've got Sag and Sag rising. You're going to be experiencing the sun going through Leo. It'll be transiting your 9th house, and it'll oppose Pluto in your 3rd house, Sag. So the good news is, obviously for you in Aries, you know, it's in a fellow sister fire sign. So there's way outs for dealing with some of this energy. Pluto is also sextiling your ascendant, so there's a way to kind of rework the way that you're communicating and thinking. I really feel like with this particular transit, you know, the sun is really highlighting like traveling, mentorship, teachers, your belief system, higher education, and it's feeling challenged. So this can mean that there is some fear that you have about maybe making changes in your travel plans, making changes when it comes to, you know, going to a place or going back to school, or maybe you're feeling a little threatened intellectually about something. You know, the sun in the 9th house can be a teacher, it can be a lawyer, it could be, you know, somebody who's showing you something, and they're kind of like highlighting like, oh, this is what this means. And it can kind of, with the opposition of Pluto, it can make you feel inferior, like somebody is like, you know, that they know more than you, which I know most Sag risings would be like, what? So you can kind of feel like you're getting schooled a little bit, right? And there can be this sense of being like, man, okay, like that, you know, how do I respond to that? How do I communicate? So know that there are going to most likely be some intense learning experiences and communication challenges. And this can be, you know, in regards to law and legality, like I said, education. It can be stuff revolving travel. And it does trigger, because Pluto rules your 12th house, this sense of being like, oh my God, like, why didn't I know that? You know, like I should know more about that. And you can kind of beat yourself up a little bit. And I definitely think with like the retrograde coming through your 9th house and the opposition to Pluto, you know, this is going to be also for those of you guys who are trying to plan travel right now. I would say I would wait, because that opposition makes me feel like there can be some curveballs and things coming that can impact traveling. So maybe wait until at least Mercury starts to retrograde. You can see what that's about. Don't get into it with neighbors. Don't get into it with teachers. That's definitely something you want to avoid. All right, good luck. And we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the sun's transit through the sign of Leo. It's moving through your 8th house. This is all about basically joint resources, the shadow, you know, working through fears, other people's money, something revolving around transformations around intimacy, or yeah, I think creative transformations as well with Leo being in the 8th house. So that'll oppose Pluto in your 2nd. For you in Cancer, these are very financial oppositions you're dealing with. You know, Pluto in the 2nd house is dealing with a reevaluation of your power. How much power do you have over your resources, your possessions, spending power? What's changing dramatically about your finances and how that's being brought on through another person. So sometimes planets go through the 8th house and you gain something, and so it can positively impact you. Look at what's going on with this full moon to kind of give you more context, and you'll maybe see that play out through the next month with the next full moon. But I see this as like a reevaluation of your financial situation and also your personal values. And I think about how, you know, Pluto rules your 11th house. And so I think that this is your goals revolving around money changing and your relationship with money and the give and the take that you have with other people. Certainly, like with a retrograde here, it looks like a lot of financial stuff is going to get sorted out here pretty soon. So it does make me feel like it may be highlighting other people's resources and like how that can actually positively impact you, especially if you're trying to kind of recoup something, or you're trying to kind of get paid back or get granted some kind of payment. It definitely looks like this is the theme, and like finally being like, no, enough is enough. I need what I need, you know? So let me know how that goes for you, my Capricorns. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You'll be experiencing the sun transiting your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and also this is your marketplace. It could be clients. It could be a relationship you have with a therapist or a spouse, and it's opposing Pluto in your sign. So the sun's the faster moving planet. You are getting challenged on this one. You and Scorpio, you guys are in the hot seats. And the sun is moving through the 7th house. So on one hand, like, look, sun in the 7th house, Venus in the 7th house, there can be a lot of relationship stuff going on. Somebody could walk right into your life and be like the love of your life, and they could be wanting to give you more attention and more affection and more appreciation. Certainly with the retrograde, there is a sense of really reevaluating, like, what's the deal with this person? What do they want? Why are they coming back? But the opposition to Pluto is bringing up whether or not you're actually letting love in. You're letting the light in. If you're open to reconnecting, if you're open to new clients or partnerships. Now, Pluto rules your 10th house of career and responsibility, and also things revolving around control. So really, I look at this and I go, wow, you know, Pluto's in your 1st house. This is about deep transformation of your identity and your self-image, and you might still feel like you're kind of in limbo and you're changing something about your career, you're changing something about your status, you're wanting to make big personal changes, and power issues can be a big theme with you because you may be kind of like resisting making changes. You might be saying, no, I don't want to let this go. I don't want this old job to end or this old identity to end. And people can be coming in and they can be saying, well, what do you need? How can I help you? So be mindful of letting that in, because I feel like this can be really good where through you changing as a person, your relationships can evolve and you can bring people in who can kind of help you throughout that transition. Watch for power struggles with people at work and also with clients. That can happen. There can also be like partners getting on your case about whether or not you're letting them help you, or if you're working too much, or if they're working too much. There can be a little bit of back and forth with that. And obviously, yeah, we see some standoffs happen here with oppositions between, Sun and Pluto in the 1st and the 7th house. Somebody can really be pushing their will on you with some of those transits, and you can be resistant with Pluto retrograde and be like, no, that's not what I want. So watch for that. And we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys will be experiencing the sun transiting through the sign of Leo in your natal 6th house, which is all about health, habits, routine, your workspace. This is also about your service, I think, for other people as well. This is a house that's very much dedicated to your routines, okay? So you're gonna have a retrograde here. This may be a time where, you know, you're saying, I want to make changes in my health. I want to be more productive. I need to do those things. And this is opposing Pluto, which is in your 12th house. So this is, well, what is needing to change and transform psychologically with your unconscious self, you know, in order for you to be able to have better health or habits or have more clarity when it comes to your health. This could also be bringing deep spiritual experiences and psychological insights. Pluto rules your 9th house, so it can be about like learning a new healing modality. It can be having a new shift or a different belief revolving around health or wellness. And it is possible that, you know, in order to get healthy or in order to get a job or in order to feel more productive, you're having to overcome some of these fears, these phobias, these blockages, with Pluto being in your 12th house, right? So this is also very much health related. Sometimes we see health stuff happen and somebody's like, I don't want to go to the doctor, you know? And then, you know, we have to do that. We have to kind of confront that fear and finally go and take the test and figure out what's going on, so that way we can get better, right? Anyway, that's basically this week in a nutshell. Like I said, keep your light on, keep the light shining. Don't let other people kind of put it out. Be mindful of what you guys are interacting with. Try to be aware that there's going to be a lot of polarizing things that are going to be happening this week. And I want you to be more focused on how you are learning how to manage that, and also being a leader in your own right and focusing on your happiness and not getting entangled in the drama. As always, I appreciate your guys' likes, comments, and shares. I love hearing how these things kind of play out for you guys and where you see some of this stuff, especially some of the Pluto stuff this week. Do leave me a comment. I love reading them. I try to get back to you guys, and make sure you're subscribed so that way you can get the other videos coming out this week. I'm going to be back on Friday. We're going to be doing live readings at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing astrology readings. I'm also going to have horoscopes out for you guys this week, and we're just going to keep on keeping on as we are coming into August here pretty soon. So when we do the astro weather next week, we're going to talk all about kind of the overview for August. So enjoy the rest of this full moon, right? And I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend, and I will catch you guys back here very soon. Take care.